Hello all and a very warm welcome. I was just watching a video and I think I've seen this before, but it's Carrier again, Richard Carrier talking to Godless Engineer on Godless Engineer, the channel. And I've been over this before, but I thought I'd just do a very quick video because I haven't done anything today with this channel. So they're talking about Bart Ehrman's use of the evidence for the non-narrative sources for Jesus, so the non-canonical kind of gospel evidences of Jesus, right? And he's got here Paul, of course, so his letters, Acts, Ephesians, Colossians, 1 Timothy and Hebrews. Now, I think because Paul he has 7 authentic letters, supposedly. I don't even think they are really good evidence, even that a person called Paul really wrote them. There are competing ideas now on the actual historicity of Paul himself, and there are reasons to wonder whether he is a reliable witness of much anyway. But it's probably true that an individual existed who wrote probably 4 letters, maybe 7, but he was part of a church that was a mystical and apocalyptic, mythicist church, if you like. So when Ehrman uses Paul, he's doing so at quite a cost, and thoroughly now, if you check, if you have a thorough look at the epistles of Paul, you're not going to find an historical Jesus. Acts, Ephesians, Colossians, I think he names these apart from Paul because these are obviously Deutero-Pauline. They're not really professed anymore to have been written by Paul. 1 Timothy, which is a pastoral letter, not by Paul, comes later, is not in the core 10 letter publication that Marcion brings to Rome. Hebrews, that's a celestial Jesus that's opined in Hebrews. 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st John, Revelation, 1st Clement the Didache, Ignatius, Josephus and Tacitus. Josephus and Tacitus obviously being pagan references in the 2nd century now, and they're not very good at all. I've been through them. Have a look at some of the other videos I've put out. So this is his evidence, Bart's evidence here for the historical Jesus. It's all mythic in complexion. First, I think he mentions 2 Peter here, which is apocryphal. It's very likely that 1 Peter wasn't even written by an apostle to Jesus. It might well be a valid piece of evidence for the Jesus movement, but of course it's absolutely minimal in history, and you can read 1 Peter as purely a revelatory letter of a revelatory Christ. So in 2 Peter here, it's interesting that the Carrier comes away with this notion that it was written in order to counter the notions, ideas, and the claims here that early Christians didn't believe in a historical Jesus. That definitely seems to be the case. There were plenty of Christians who did not believe that Jesus came as an historical personage at all. And many of the church fathers deal with this and grapple with this in their extensive attacks on heretics. So like Marcion, like Valentinus and so on, Basilides. And we hear it echoed in their works. Now, it's also true that much or most, or if not all of this work has since been destroyed by Christians and just left to the ashes of time. But if we look at 2 Peter here, we get two quotes that could mildly be be used to opine like an historic to promote an historical Jesus. An opening greeting, of course. So Simon Peter, a servant and the apostle of Jesus Christ, in the knowledge of God and of Jesus our Lord. Again, it's a title-based remark, not historical detail. The transfiguration claim, though, 2 Peter 1:16-18, is a little more interesting. We did not follow cleverly devised myths, but we were witnesses of his majesty. For he received honor and glory from God the Father when the voice was conveyed to him by the majestic glory, saying, "This is my Son, my Lord, with whom I am well pleased." We ourselves heard this voice from heaven, for we were with him on the holy mountain. Now that is can reasonably be attested to be a quote about a Jesus by the apostles on the mountain there. And it, of course, echoes the transfiguration in Mark, Matthew, Luke. I don't think it's in John, but there's no other. So might this be an interpolation into this 2 Peter here, an otherwise completely lacking letter in any respect to the biblical Jesus, or is it and it's sorry you can't use this as evidence for Jesus? It only appears in the, I think, late 2nd century. It's way past any eyewitnesses. It's very minimal on history, and of course it certainly does not sound like it was written by the first Peter, the Peter of the first letter. And it's extremely difficult to say that this illiterate fisherman would have been able to write this in, of course, Greek, which is what it appears in. So, what do we have here? Ehrman here, if I go back to this, I mean, First John as well, Revelation has nothing to do with an historical Jesus. First Clement as well. I've commented extensively on Clement of Rome, writing in something like the 90s, though he might have been writing before then, could be that he's just Jewish and he was part of a messianic sect that still didn't really understand Christianity, but that heard these voices from these revelatory creatures, in their heads, and they were taking things straight out of the Old Testament, which is what Clement does. The Didache Ignatius. Again, what do they contain that has anything to do with the historical Jesus in them? And when do they appear? Well, in the 2nd century. They were all, Ignatius only appears, I think, in, as I mentioned, in Polycarp, in his letters, and then in Irenaeus, and I think Justin Martyr is just passing mentions. So he was probably alive, but the mythology around Ignatius is huge. He would not have been sent to Rome to undergo a martyrdom, and the martyrdom, of course, is completely mythic and weird sounding, and it's something Christians would talk about, but yeah, there's nothing there. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. So this is Bart Ehrman, one of the greatest scholars in modern biblical criticism here, and a renowned Bible scholar, and of course extremely skeptical of the biblical stories, but here he still believes that there is an historical Jesus. These items in front of us, Paul, Acts, Ephesians, Colossians, 1 Timothy, Hebrews, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1 John, Revelation, 1 Clement, Didache, Ignatius, Josephus, Tacitus, don't have anything to do with the gospel stories in them at all, and actually they tend to speak against the gospel narratives in the way that they're composed, and with the fact that they are unanimous on a zero historical narrative here, and every single particular of Jesus's historicity, and you can just read the documents, find them yourselves and have a read. They know nothing of the biblical stories, miracles, parables, any of those big stories there, Pilate, anything like this, they're all gone from it. Anyway, take care. See you later.